Hey there YouTube, my name is Brad. I'm the Harley-Davidson Wizard. Today we're going to be working on this 2017 Mysterious Red Ultra Classic. It only has 2,000 miles, but the customer's stepping it up a notch. We're going to be doing a stage 2. Let me take you over the table and we'll show you some of the parts. Alright, so on this build what we're going to be doing, we're going to be using a Rinehart header pipe. It already has Rinehart slip-ons on the motorcycle itself. Yesterday I went through and already cleaned out the O2 sensor bungs with a tap. So those are all ready to go. We have the Screaming Eagle air cleaner kit that we're going to be using, along with the Screaming Eagle adjustable push rods. A few gaskets and things that we need. We've actually been waiting on the new oil pump for like 2 months, I think, which isn't that big of a deal here because in Michigan right now it's 28 degrees and it's freezing, so this bike is in for winter storage. But this is a brand new oil pump that is offered through Harley-Davidson as a retro to the retro to the retro to the retro to the retro of the original oil pump that's in this motorcycle. This is the same oil pump that comes on a 2020 brand new motorcycle. So it comes with the new backing plate, and then there's a difference in the rotors here, and then there's also supposed to be a difference here in the body. So that's going to be interesting to take the original one out of here, which is going to be like the first generation, and visually see the differences. We have the Torrington inner cam bearing. It's also a Harley-Davidson part. We're going to be using a little bit fancier lifter. It's one from Feuling that we use normally for our just kind of normal stage 2, stage 3 kind of stuff. And then he wanted to go with a Feuling cam. It's a 465, if you can see through the camera. And these are a few of the tools that we're going to be using today. We're going to be using the bolt cutters to cut out the original push rods, an appropriate tool to pull out the cam bearing that's in the motorcycle. This is what I like to use. You can tell I've used it for a while. And then a tool to install the new cam bearing. I'm going to check the run out, make sure there's no problems there. And then different assembly lubes, cam drive locking tool. Let's take a look at the bike. It's a nice bike. It doesn't have much mileage on it, but maybe once it gets sounding better and has a little more power, then I'll ride it some more. It's essentially all stock with the exception of the Rinehart slip-ons. These big guys are huge. They're like 5 inches in diameter or something. But we're gonna get started with pulling the spark plugs out of the motorcycle and removing the exhaust system and the footboard and the air cleaner, and then that will give us access to the pushrod tubes, and we'll get the cylinders that we'll get the cylinder that we're working on the base circle, and then that way the pushrods will be at their least tightest point essentially. And we'll cut out the original push rods. Then we can pull the cam cover, the cam plate, the oil pump, and then check out the two. Make sure everything's all good. I mean, like the 2 oil pumps. It's gonna be nice to see. And then put it back together with a new cam and the new exhaust system. And we're gonna be tuning it up with the Vision. So I'm gonna put you on the tripod and we're gonna get going. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Alright. We're going to want to pull the spark plugs out, so once we put the vehicle in 6th gear and roll it over to get our push rods in position, to get them removed from the vehicle, they'll make it easy. Because if you try to roll it over while it's making compression in 6th gear, it's going to be real tough. Real tough. Lots of threads on them. All right. And then, I don't know if you can see my hand. Probably not. Probably doesn't matter. But, all right, second gear, third gear, fourth, fifth, sixth. Sixth is gonna make it easiest with a mechanical advantage of spinning the tire through the gear set to move the pistons and cam where we need it to be. Let's go back to the other side. Alright, pulling the footboard off. Uses a 5/16 socket. I use it on this little impact. It makes quick work of it. And then next, I put this bike on the hoist last night. So last night before I went home, I loosened up the exhaust clamps and sprayed a little bit of WD-40 behind them because we're going to be reusing these mufflers. So we're going to be taking the mufflers off, pulling the side cover off, undoing the O2 sensor wiring where it's kind of like cable wrapped in there, and then pulling it out so it's free. And then we'll be able to use a 1/2-inch socket and get in there. Actually, we'll have to take off these 2 heat shields, use a 1/2-inch socket to get up in there and get those screws off of there, along with this little crossover tube and then the little transmission mount. So let's get going on that. We might as well start on the crossover on the other side. A little 1/2-inch socket back here. I can't say that I've seen these Rinehart slip-ons before, but we'll hear what they sound like. A little bit of lubricant goes a long way. See if I can get the shot up in there. A little 1/2-inch socket. And then I already loosened the clamp up. Bingo. Put that right there. attach it. Do. And then there's another zip tie here. Start pulling them through. And then there's another 2 zip ties, basically, I believe. There's one, if you can see. I don't know if you can. It is right here. Sorry. Then we can pull that guy through. And then I'm going to move you down. Even lower. Alright, you probably can't see this, but now we're going to be undoing the front O2 sensor. It has 2 little clips that it sits in. And then it fits in behind the hydraulic clutch hose. So then you want to pull it out from behind there. There's enough room to do it while it's on the bike like that. Pull it out. And then it will kind of like untuck from the brake line. And then the last zip tie is a real B-hole. It's attached to the brake pressure switch, or the oil pressure switch. I already unplugged it, but now I'm going to reach in there with a pair of suitable cutters and cut it off and free it from the wiring. It's difficult even when you can see, so be careful. All right, easy peasy. And then we got a little 5/16. We're gonna undo the hose clamps for the exhaust system. If the bike's corroded, or like if they're rusty or tight, don't force them. Just spray a little WD-40 on them and they'll loosen right up. I'm gonna speed this up a little bit. Like that's right on the point where you could probably use some WD-40. Actually, that's exactly what we're gonna do. Because those pipe clamps are a real pain in the ass if you strip them out. Got the stuff. Just a little dab. So much nicer. Little attachment just to loosen it up, and then it'll roll more in our direction. We'll power it out. Then we got a 1/2-inch wobbly guy. Should fit right up in there. Oop. Tight quarters. We got that one. There's this little guy down here. And then this one I usually go from the front side. This one I usually go from like down here, kind of thing. Sometimes I can see through the little fairing vent. I don't know if you're in. Oh yeah, you can probably see that. A little bit of it at least. Bingo. Wiggle and jiggle your little clamps off. Close that guy. I'm trying to reach around the camera, but wiggle your flanges out of the way. Right off. All right. Now you can maybe, well, let me get you in there. If you can see like that turbo, super hefty zip tie, I just cut them off. I cut the zip tie off altogether, sorry. And it really isn't needed. Like, there aren't things that are moving and spinning around there. Done. Problem fixed. Alright. Then we'll get the air cleaner off. Not only because we have a newer, better one. Same difference, I guess. We got a newer, better one, but it's in our way of the push rods, so that's the deal. Those three guys out of there. Put a little breather tube. I'm gonna back you up because I'm gonna use the big dog, 7/16. Perfect. All right, with this air cleaner, the new air cleaner kit, we're gonna have to remove the backing plate. Actually, the induction module plate bracket guy. So we will clip this zip tie with this huge retarded pair of dikes, and it's separated. She's just being stubborn. like that. And then these two screws back here are metric, 5mm usually. There we go. Remove this, and then I like to put the screws back in there, so it doesn't look like empty. Because you can see this with the air cleaner in place, it just looks unfinished with just two holes in there, two threaded holes. Man, I can't find my favorite little clippers. I hate that when a tool goes missing. Like, I know I'm gonna find it before the end of the day, but it's the only thing on my mind. Alright. And then we're gonna want to undo this little clip. It has like a little plastic safety, like a secondary lock. Let me get you down here. It's an important connector, so they like. It's a important connector, so they super do it. Like with a secondary lock, and then you press up on it, pull out, tuck it out of the way. That'll give us room to the pushrod tubes. Thank Jesus, I found them. I took them to like the other side of the shop while I was talking to somebody. They were in my hand, so awesome. All right, now we're gonna pop the collars on all the pushrod tubes. Pop them off. You don't have to be really careful with these. I guess not to mess up the cylinders, but they will not be reused. And then wiggle and jiggle the pushrod tubes. Get your O-ring all the way up. So you got plenty of room to work. Like that. What I do sometimes is I found this really strong magnet in somebody's tour pack that was a trade-in bike, so I held on to it, and then then it holds them up. What we need to do is find where the cam lobes are on the base circle, so that the push rods will have the least amount of stress on them, because they won't be trying to open a valve. So we want them with the valves closed, cut the push rods, pull them out. We don't want to cut a push rod while it's trying to hold the valve open. So that's called finding the cam, finding the base circle for that cylinder. So the easy way to do this is when one set of lobes is on overlap, like for one cylinder, the other cylinder will definitely not be on overlap, and it will be on the base circle. So what we do, I don't know if you can see the little colors down there. Hopefully this magnet doesn't like break my camera. It's super strong. Alright, so what we're going to do is find where this cylinder is on overlap. We're going to look for the exhaust valve to open and then close, and then the intake valve to just begin to open. That means that this cylinder, it doesn't matter which cylinder you start on, but that would mean that this cylinder is going to be on overlap, meaning the other cylinder is on baseline, and we can cut these other push rods. So let's watch. Alright, the exhaust valve is opening, closing. You see the intake is just moving just a hair. So this cylinder is on overlap. So then we'll come back here to our other cylinder. And then I'm going to rinse my hands real quick because they're a little dirty from the rear tire. We don't need any of that dirt inside the engine. Perfect. So now that we've waited a moment, you can see I'm turning it. So that means that both of these push rods aren't opening the valves. So now we're going to cut them out with a pair of bolt cutters. It's gonna be a tough angle to get because they're huge bolt cutters. Maybe like a down and in angle, and we want to be careful not to touch the chrome or touch the cylinder or apply any pressure in a weird spot. So we get our little bolt cutters, go in. We don't need the magnet on there, get that out of the way. Go in. Cut it. And then, like it's mostly cut. And then I go in with the little nip-X. Make sure it's all the way cut. She pops in half. And you pull them out. Boom. Alright. Toss it in the garbage. At least the push rod. You keep part of the tube. Alright. This back one is the hardest to get to because you don't want to apply pressure to the connector for the throttle control actuator. You don't want to mark up the cylinders or anything. So I'm going to be careful. Very careful. Alright, and that one's separated. She pulls right out. Alright, so now we're going to find overlap on this rear cylinder. So I stick my fingers in there. Yeah. Alright. Well, I'm gonna find overlap here, cut those push rods, and go get pizza if you're hurting. So let's do that. Alright, I felt that exhaust and that intake. So let's go up here. If you can see, I'm turning and I'm turning. Alright. Let's cut those things out of here so we don't forget where we were at. Go get that pizza. I'm going to need you over here, I think. I'm being careful so I don't cut myself. Alright. Little bottom half, top half. Again, we want to be careful. You want to use like the shallow side of your bolt cutters if you have one, towards the bottom. Pull her out of there, and then I'm going to pull the gaskets out of here and out of the head, push rod tube gaskets. That way I don't forget about them.
Hey Brad.
Yeah.
There's pizza upstairs.
All right. Did you hear there's pizza upstairs? I'm joking. All right. That one. That one. Boom. All right, let's go get some lunch. All right. Well, all right. Well, it was Marco's Pizza. It was pretty good. So, if you know where Marco's Pizza is in Waterford, I'd recommend it. But let's get back to it. Easy does it. Get our whole gasket off of here. We won't be needing that. Alright, we're gonna get the oil pump out of here, the cam plate. We're gonna go clean it up, and we're gonna get the cam out of here. That easy. And we're gonna go take a look at the oil pump, and the old oil pump and the new oil pump. Tight fit. Not the quickest tool in the world, but it does the job. Pulls the inner cam bearing out. Alright, so we're going to get the lifters going. I like to use this lifter priming jar. It uses a vacuum on the top to draw all of the air out of the lifters. First, pull them out of the packaging. And then with the pumping up and the priming, it makes it easier to set the adjustable push rods correctly, or just adjust them in general right from the get-go. Then the plunger has a little bit of resistance because you're pushing the oil out of it, rather than just up against the little tiny spring that's in there. And then it has oil in it, so it makes it quicker to prime the top end of the engine and everything. So I get a little oil fill can deal like this. You get your lifter, and then you stick it in a hole. And I don't know if you can see, but the oil is coming out the top. Then you do that till all the bubbles are out of it. Try and do this without leaking oil everywhere. Like that. And then you reach in here, you drop it in a little holder, and then continue on. You gotta get it just right. I gotta get a longer hook for that thing so it's easier to grab, but right. And then Alright, everything's looking good there. All the bubbles just come right out of it. Let's go back to the whip. It'll raise you up. Some more. Check the run out like we do. I'd call that 4. 4. For a stock engine, all set up, 4 is fine. And the newer Milwaukee 8s, they are, the way that the oil pump is designed, it doesn't have a big spring-loaded washer on it, so it isn't nearly as hard on the oil pump as it used to be. And then we already installed the inner cam bearing. We oiled it before we installed it, and then now that we installed it, we make sure that it still spins, and it spins great. So we're gonna put our scavenge O-ring in, and then our other O-ring. I'll put a little bit of Screaming Eagle assembly lube on it. That way that it wants to stay in there. You aren't fighting it. Alright, let's check out some of this stuff. So that's the old inner cam bearing. Nothing wrong with it for stock applications, but we aren't doing that. So it gets to go in the garbage. So here we have the cam plate, the original oil pump here, if you can see that, and then the new oil pump. So I just wanted to take a look at it and just look at it. So the new oil pump, I put a couple Sharpie marks on it so I don't do something stupid here and mix it up. But the original oil pump, in the first couple generations of them, just had a normal backing like that, where the newer ones have this O-ring. It's not really an O-ring, but it's a seal, and it sits up against the main bearing in the engine case. So that's a little bit different. And then let me see if I can bring it in even closer. It looks like there's a difference in the volume of these little ports here. Like this is the old one. Let's see if I can bring them up closer. The old one's on the top, new one's on the bottom. It looks like this is slightly larger, and then it looks larger through here compared to an original. And it looks like maybe it's not as deep. I'm not sure about that, but maybe like it's not as deep. Let's continue on. Alright, so we have the old pump body here, new pump body. So the new one's on the top. Oh, right away you can tell that that port is a lot bigger on the new one. We don't care about that one because it's the old one. But this new one, this port here, is a lot bigger. And it's also a lot thicker through here, this channel. And it's bigger at the bottom too. Down here, that port is. And it's a lot bigger here too. Like this bottom port, check that out. See how skinny it is? And how much wider it is? It's kind of cool. There's also a big difference in this hole here. If you see, like, it's a small hole, and it almost, like, it's kind of far away from the floor there. Where on the original one, it's a big hole. That's interesting. Because that's the main scavenge from the engine case, where it draws oil back up through here and then shoves it back in the oil tank. Oh, I didn't even notice that there's a completely different shape here. Like this is a little downturn thing, where on the original one, like it's just like a little baby deal, but on the new one it's like a completely different shape. Oh, look at how much, like how narrow it is through here, and how thick this one is. Like this thickness here. Interesting. Let's see if it's like roughly the same depth. I'm just going to use the old pump to drop in for. Yeah, I get the right one. They're a tight fit when they're dry. Alright. Completely different deal. The new one's smaller. Like it won't even fit in there. It seems to be the same height though. We're up with that, which is interesting. So the scavenge pump is like smaller in overall diameter. If you can see that. It's interesting. But it's larger in volume because of the way the gerotors fit. Like you can see like how much room there is in there versus, look at the volume that could go in there versus that one. So even though it's smaller, it flows more. Let's flip it over. It doesn't look like there's nearly as substantial of differences over here, other than the way that the pressure relief valve works. So in this early style, the pressure relief valve's in here. You can see it through that little hole, but the little piston is like right down inside of there, if you can see it. You notice that it's smooth through here. Where on the new pump body, it's like that down there still, but then there's this whole other thing going on here. That's interesting. Again, this is the old one, this is the new one. Like I'm sure I could just look up the data sheet and it would tell me exactly why it's different, but sometimes it's more fun to look at it. Alright, let's look at the difference in the gerotor there. That's about the same. It's the same height. Is there the same number of lobes in it? Yeah, it is. So the pump is pretty much like the actual pressure side of the pump has the same amount of gerotors. So that part looks pretty much the same. So I'm glad that I marked them. Yeah, so the pump gerotor itself appears to be the same, even though the update kit comes with a new one, which is cool. So that's all the new stuff up there. This is all the old stuff. So back in the day with 4000s run out, you would see a lot of face wear on the gerotor. That's because like in the twin cam, it had a metal backing plate that went up against it. It was spring loaded, so it was always applying pressure to the back of the gerotors. Like there was a spring and 2 metal washers, kind of. But on this new style, it doesn't use any of that business. So even though there's 4,000 run out, there's essentially no wear on the face of the rotor. And this is just the way that it's ground, like this separation and shininess, but there is zero abnormalness going on there. And same with this other side. It's looking great. And then same with the pump side. It almost looks like it's brand new, you know. And it doesn't have, it just has a little something, but it's superficial. Same with the bore, like the bore of the old pump is in really good shape. No problems there, other than its design. So that's going away. So we got the new one. I'm gonna clean it up again. Then we're gonna use assembly lube. I like to use this stuff on the oil pump itself. It's thin enough where the gerotors can move around inside of the pump, and it doesn't really stick everything all together, which I like. So I'm gonna clean it up, lube it up, stick it in. Alright, let's get these things together-ish. This is the way I lube pumps. You can lube your pump however you want to. This is what I do. Put it in there, smooth it around, sit inside its friend. Get the thrust surfaces all the way around. I don't know why. I like to get down in that corner though, for some reason. Woo. Starting to make a mess here. I didn't do it over here because I was being lazy, but we doing it now. You know what? I wasn't being lazy. I heard somebody walking up and I just turned the camera off. And then I turned it back on. And I was just dropping it in there real quick. Alright. So now the oil pump is ready to go into the motorcycle. But before that, we gotta put the lifters and cam in. So I'm gonna clean up a little bit and come back and move you around. Alright, and it's set up like this where we aren't replacing like the cuffs or something up in the lifter housing. I don't like to pull the actual lifter block because it's a pain in the butt. So the lifters will drop out the bottom here. Then I get some assembly lube. Thick stuff, this is Screaming Eagle stuff. Then lube up the bore, just like that. And then I'm going to stick the lifters right up from the bottom, and that thick assembly lube will hold it. And then you slide the cam in. So I'm going to put assembly lube on the cam and do the deal with the lifters, put the cam in, and keep on going. Just like that. We already assembly lubed the cam. Just like that. Oil pumps already. Gotta line everything up. So I'm gonna let the engine do that for me. Just like that. Then she slides right in there. Pull our screws out. Make sure that you lube up your cam plate. Nobody likes going in dry. And also back here. And inside there. Alright. Make sure that your O-ring didn't move or anything. Time to put some screws in it. Start with the cam plate. Just gonna run things in, get them seated a little bit. Making sure everything's seated. Alright. These up and then back them off like a turn. pump up to the crankshaft here in a second, but we're going to tighten all the cam plate bolts first. Keep going. Spin over the rear wheel, you'll see the crankshaft turning. And then double check everything. Alright, and then we're gonna rotate so that the crank flat is facing up. Our original spacer that we pulled off of here. Alright. Going to double check the offset right there. After you've done 100 of them, you can really almost feel how close it is. It feels like the cam is a little low. I'm using a 10 thousandths feeler gauge. Go right across the front of it. She good. It's 10 thousandths. That's all the shims are, so you really only do anything if it's more than 10 thousandths off. And those were old screws, the original ones that we pulled out of here. Because we're going to use new screws putting it back together. See? New screws. Make sure your dots line up like that. Alright, she's looking good. She's feeling right. Got all the new stuff in there. Put the tensioner on. We'll button up the cam cover. Alright. Everything's all done in the cam chest. We just want to not forget to plug the oil pressure switch back in. We're going to turn the rear wheel over a little bit. Make sure everybody's happy. Excellent. Everything's good. I like to clean out the push rods in case there's any type of crap in there, clean out the threads. And then we're going to clean up what we're going to reuse of the old push rod tubes and get it together. Get some gaskets in the upper end, and then also down here on the top of the lifter blocks. Change the battery and come back. Alright, we got our new push rods all cleaned up. I clean them up so that they spin easily, just like that. So it's nice and easy to adjust them in the motorcycle. But you also want to make sure that there isn't like any poop or schmoo in there, that it's a actual clear hole, just because. So these pieces you reuse from the original push rod tubes, but it comes with new O-rings, so obviously you replace the O-rings and then you slide it into the new supplied tubes. That's how they're going to go in a motorcycle. It comes with a longer collar, and that's how everything fits up. So we're going to go back over to the motorcycle, and we're going to do the exact same thing as far as getting one cylinder on overlap so that the other cylinder is on the base circle, and get the push rods in. Alright, same thing. I'm just going to stick my fingers in the hole and then roll the engine over. Alright, I feel the exhaust opening and closing, and the intake just starting to open right there. So that's perfect. So that means that the rear is on overlap, front is going to be on base circle. So you just make sure that your lifters are pushed all the way down, and then you want to get the correct push rod, because there's two different ones. There's intakes and exhaust. So we're going to get an intake, put it in a tube. I'm going to put a little assembly lube on the top and the bottom, and we're going to stick it in there and adjust it. We'll move you out a little bit, see if you can get a wider picture. Alright, like that. Like, you don't want to go putting things in dry, you know. So you lube up your tips. Keep your tip lubed. Try not to fall on your chair. And stick it up in there. Stick it in there. And then you can kind of hold the center of it. And then fling the nut up. Sometimes you gotta pull it out more, so then you can roll the nut up. And then once you get it just far enough, you can fit a wrench on it and it makes it easier. It's a little 5/16 wrench. Stick it up in there, make sure you get your O-ring where it's supposed to be and it doesn't pop out. Oh. There you go. And I'm just spinning the push rod and the nut, and I'm holding the center stud with the wrench. And it's going to take a little bit. Getting close. Hold on, I'm gonna take a break. It's easy for your hand to cramp up doing this. Alright, we're going back at it. We are almost there. We are right there. And then I like to double check that the O-rings are still in the right spot. And then I'm holding it and I'm just feeling it for it to be at its max amount of extension without depressing the plunger in the lifter. So like it's gonna get to a spot where it's like loose. Oh, my hand's starting to cramp again. Hold on. We're like right on it. See, it's too loose. And it's right there. That's the spot. There's a little dot on the front of it. I don't know if you can see, but now we're gonna spin it 2.5 times. So we're gonna hold the bottom, hold the tube up with one hand. At least that's the way I do it. And I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's one turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 2 turns. And then 1, 2, 3. It's 2.5 turns. Roll the nut up. And then you get your little wrench on the bottom. You get your other 1/2-inch wrench up top. You hold them together like that, and then you grab a third 1/2-inch wrench, and then spin the nut together. And then you get a better grip on it, and give it just an acceptable amount of torque. Just like that. The intake one's done. Now we'll do the exhaust. Same story. It says exhaust on it, if you can see it. And then a little bit of lube up top. Sometimes I put the lube right in the lifter so that you don't have to get lube all over your hands. But we didn't do that this time. Oh, it's so close. So close. Don't forget your O-ring. Alright. There we go. That one's gonna be tight because I lubed it. I It makes it tough on the hands. Alright, and now we're doing it. And Rinehart. Alright, so we're just about there. I like to go a little bit past, like fully extend it so it's like definitely pressing on the lifter for sure, so it like seats all that assembly stuff. And then come back, and that's our spot. We're going to turn it around until we see the little circle deal. Make sure our nut's loose. Alright, that's good. Same kind of thing. One, two, three, four, five, six. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. It's 2.5 turns. Roll the nut up. Your bottom wrench in place. And your top wrench in place like that. And give it an acceptable amount of torque on your lock nut. I don't know if you can see around my hands at all, but that's the deal. Alright, and then you make sure that the push rods are fully, or that the lifter is fully bled down. Let me move you. Same thing as earlier. When the lifter is bled down, you'll be able to turn the push rod. I don't know if you can see that. See? Alright, so that's good. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our little magnet guy up there. Like that. And then maybe you'll be able to see as we turn the engine over again. Exhaust is just opening. And then the intake is just about to open. So it's a little, it doesn't have as much travel right now because the lifters still have a little bit of air in it. But now we know that this cylinder is on overlap and that the rear cylinder is on base circle, and we're going to put our push rods in here. So that's what we're going to do. This one's going to be really tough for you to see, but we'll see what we can do. We want to make sure that our lifters are pressed all the way down. That'll just make it easier. And up in the hole she goes. And then you can probably just see the back of my hand. It's spinning though. It's spinning the push rod. I'm holding the stud that extends out of it. Alright, then we'll go a little bit past, so it's like locked up solid, but that's not where we start at. Alright, so then we fully extend the push rod, which is there, roll it around until we see our little circle, and then we double check. Hold it and count 2.5 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Then we get our wrenches in there, spin up our lock nut. My wrench has moved a little bit to an area where it made them harder to hold. Alright, bottom, top, and crank it in. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. Next. Alright. She's extended a little too far. Gotta get it just right, just like that. Oh, my finger. Cramp. Oh man, we're getting close. I'm gonna be happy to be done with it. Oh my gosh, my thumb. Whew. Alright, then we're going to go a little bit past. And then come back. Right there. 2.5 turns. 2.5 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. Alright. And get our wrenches in the right position. Like so. And the third guy. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Alright, same thing as the front. You want to make sure that the push rods spin so that you know that the engine, or that the lifter's bled down. And they have been. So that's perfect. Put the bottom in. And then I'm going to try to move you if you can see it all. Sorry. And then I'll take your center one. And there's a certain feeling it has once it goes up into the actual seal. And be very careful, just like that. Put your collar down, wedge it in from the top, small screwdriver, bingo. Drop it in the bottom, push it in the top, make sure she's seated. Bingo. Now time for the front. Same deal. Click, clack. Good. Good. Click, clack. Alright, that's it. Now the cam and all that business is fully installed. Last thing that we're going to do while we're here, I use this little hook tool to get in here and grab the exhaust gasket without gouging the board or anything. Pull out the exhaust gasket because we're going to be using different ones with our new Rinehart exhaust system. Alright, with all the cam stuff all buttoned up, we're going to put the exhaust system on, the new Rinehart True Dual exhaust system. The only thing that we needed to do was remove the original exhaust gaskets because this exhaust system requires a different exhaust gasket. It comes with it. And we're going to remove this little stud down here. It used to hold up the old exhaust system. It's easier to do it sooner than later when the pipe's on there. I use a 5.5 millimeter socket. Fits on there, pulls it out usually. Let's take a look at the pipe again. Actually, here are the exhaust gaskets. You can see they're really thin and flat. It is because this pipe is engineered. It has a very broad edge to it, like a squared edge. And it's made for it. It makes installing the pipe really easy because it wants to slide right into the exhaust port. So it's easy to put on the motorcycle. And this pipe's nice because it comes with all the heat shields already installed on it, already tightened down. And then you can install the exhaust system with all the shields on it and also remove it like that. So if you want to do engine stuff in the future or whatever, then you just unscrew the mounting hardware and it pops off. Not a lot of aftermarket exhaust systems are this well thought out, but this one is. It's a nice pipe. I'm going to put you back in the stand and show you how it slides on. This exhaust system uses a different style clamp that's already installed on the pipe, and a little spacer, and it comes with hardware to utilize the same hole as a mounting location. So we just got to get the stock deal out of it. There it is. And then we're going to install the exhaust gaskets. All right. You want to make sure that you're careful with them, and because the exhaust port where the gasket sits is kind of like a tapered fit, so you want to be careful that the gasket doesn't try to like roll over on itself. And if it starts feeling weird, then I use just like the edge of the socket to go around the side of it and push it in, like I'm going to do right now, because you don't want to rely on the nut for the exhaust system to try to push it in. That'd be stupid. Oh, not stupid, it'd just be a bad idea. Alright, there's that. I already installed the stock O2 sensors and the little flanges on it, like that. Like any other Harley-Davidson exhaust system, it always goes in front cylinder first. And then, I'm trying to do this around the camera, it's difficult. I'm gonna move you in. So on the front cylinder, you get the flange kind of lined up where you need to. And then it's gonna push in. We're close, real close. So then, sorry, I just need the rear to push into place. Making sure the rest of the clamps are looking right. Our O2 sensor out of there. Move you again. Alright, that looks like that's it. Cool. Alright, it's in the front. For sure. Perfectly. It's in the back. And then that's how it should fit. Like kind of loose, but it's sitting physically up inside the exhaust ports. But we want to get, I don't know if you can see, I'll move you. We want to start getting the hardware attached. And then it's got a spacer and a screw and a little washer that goes on it. So sometimes it can be a little pain in the butt to line up, but pull the pipe back, get the screw through both exhaust little brackets, line it up. I feel like the exhaust pipe is sitting crooked on my hoist for whatever reason. Like right through here. I'm going to reposition the motorcycle and then we're going to come back and take another look at it. Alright, we got it back on the hoist. It was giving me a weird situation about this lower clamp. It's actually slightly below my hoist, so it was giving me a weird deal where like the pipe was coming way off at an angle, but right when I moved it around, she's looking right now. So we're gonna get that hardware back going. This little guy. Get things installed loosely. Alright, make sure nothing's pinched back there, and then we're going to get the exhaust nuts going. Not like you're going to see much anyways, you're just going to see my arm, but still better than looking at the floor. I'm just doing things very lightly and evenly. So she's getting a little bit tighter just as far as the fitment. Everything's looking good. Should use this opportunity to get the O2 sensor wiring where it's going to need to go. So it's just like the opposite of when we removed it. Get it tucked up. Get it tucked up behind the brake lever there. And then back behind the clutch hose. And then there's a little tab here in the front. And then there's going to be two more little tabs to stick it into. Right there. And right there, and then that runs up behind and up through here, and then the rear and the front both go back around here and then pop out into where they're going to plug into, but I want to straighten the wiring out so it doesn't have a bunch of curls and something in it, you know, make it look right. Alright, it's looking good. Plug it in. And the front. And get curls out of it. And that's looking good. Excellent. Now, before we tighten up the exhaust system on, we're going to get the slip-on muffler on so that the angle of the dangle's right. let's do that. Using used mufflers is always tough. I got a little expander. I'm going to expand that third. Alright. See if I can show this. It's going to be difficult, but... Alright. You leave the clamp on, and leave it loose. And then you have the appropriate expander. Put it in there. Then you get your rig dog, give it some. Alright, because you don't want to expand it bigger than the clamp. You never get the clamp on. Alright, let's see if we can get it to fit on that pipe now. Much easier. Oh yeah. That's a biscuit. Excellent. Excellent, excellent. And then you want to be careful that you don't jam it on so far that you like gouge it or something. But you want to make sure that the exhaust system is all in line, like mounting wise. So we want to get the hardware mounted here in the back, have that tightened up. And then we'll tighten the clamp here a little bit, finish tightening up at the heads and down here, and then finish tightening the clamp. So let's do it. Alright, and then we also want everything like level. It's got a little bit of a slant to it. So we're going to bump things around nicely and ask it to do what we want. Just like that. That's all it takes. See, we didn't need to use any like beating tools, but now it's probably hard to tell, but now it's sitting nice and flat, like level. And then it's fitting. Let me see if I can get in there. Like there's a little bit of a gap there, a little bit of a gap there, so that's nice and even. Now the head pipe is ready to be tightened down, so I'm going to do that next. We're just bringing things up in torque evenly. Torquing them down. All right. Then, don't forget our little buddy down here. Then, we'll get our overflow drain there. Along with a zip tie. Oh, sorry. That normally goes there. Get that buttoned up. And so our O2 sensor wire looks right. There. Boom. Cool. And then another zip tie. I don't know why I had to pick up such a short one. Like I never do that. 2 clicks is enough. 3 is better. Boom. It really doesn't matter. 1's good enough. Alright, come back here. Check these bad boys down. Good, good, good. And then we want to roll this clamp up if we can. So it's in a better looking position. Just like that. Oh, I just spun the whole exhaust pipe around. It's a ball. Oh, she's easy to move now. Good. Good. Oh yeah, you're there. You could come around more. Oh yeah. And set that right. All right, now that's good. So this whole side of the pipe is looking good. All right. Then I don't even know if they'll pick that up, but there's another little exhaust bracket back here. We got to change out. There's 2 screws at the top. If you can see any better, that's the bracket we're pulling off. Loop. This here's the new bracket we're going to install. We're going to put it on loosely. This is a little carriage bolt guy. Has to go in from the back. We got to adjust it a little bit. So we're going to get our screws in and put Loctite on it. I don't know why I got both screws in there. Get that one in there and started. Then our next one, and then we're gonna get the pipe that runs across, get that on and going. All right, this is a super tight fit, so I'm probably gonna hit the camera a lot, but and that clamp's on wrong. It's on like it's rotating. I want to flip this around and adjust it. I'll be back. Alright. I was probably wrong. I think the clamp was on incorrectly. Just, it's different. They're doing it differently now than the last time I put this pipe on. You wiggle it in there. And then this little SOB. This is usually extremely difficult. It's going on pretty okay though. This time. Getting that nut started is usually a real pain in the butt with the bracket and the clamp and all that business. Dang, that was actually not too bad. Let's get some more threads going. Before we fully tighten any of that business up, we want to get the slip-on on this side and get that kind of lined up a little bit. Alright, I should have grabbed the hardware, but it'll be fine sitting like that. All right. let's get a little bit on the right socket. All right, let's grab a measuring tape. We want the same side, like the same amount of distance sticking out here on both sides. 2 1/4. Got a lot more to come out. Because it's going to be looking stupid from the back side if it doesn't match. It's good. It's looking good. All right, let's tighten up this clamp a little bit. Then I'm going to tighten up all that business in the bottom. We'll come back and see if there's anything that we can do to line up this heat shield better. Let's get going on that thing. Make sure that still looks right over there. Oh yeah, that's definitely the stuff. Don't forget to tighten the screws up on the top bracket. Oh yeah. Let's go start working on that clamp over there. This is definitely a different design than they had originally, but it works, I guess. I don't like that. I don't think that's right. I don't know. It's weird. It's just weird. Let's see if we can change it. Oh yeah, that's so much more better. If we can just get the clamp back together, that's gonna be a real pain in the butt. It's like the exact same spot, but just rotated around. And shoved in. Yes. All right. See, now instead of the clamp like sitting out in the back looking all stupid, it sits right up in here and it has clearance around the frame. So I'm going to tighten that up and bring it back. Alright, so we finished tightening up the exhaust system. And then I just sprayed it down with some Windex and cleaned it up. It's unfortunate, but I can't move the other exhaust pipe any more forward to enable me to move this pipe more forward and have a match. So that little mark will have to stay there, but being on the left side of the bike, you'll hardly be able to see it. But this side, the exhaust system's all buttoned up. May or may not be able to see the clamp finally, where it's just like it's rotated around slightly under the heat shield that I was fussing around with. But that's all buttoned up. Put the footboard on. Comes with a couple of spacers so that there's room around the exhaust system. And I put the wideband O2 sensors in it because I'm going to tune it with a Vision. That's basically it. I'm going to be excited to be done with this project. It's been going on a bit too long today for me. So we're going to get this air cleaner on. And what else do we have to do? I got to crank it over and get the oil pressure kicked up, so that the first time that we start it, everything's well lubricated. And when I pulled the spark plugs out on the left-hand side, they felt kind of loose, which it's a light amount of torque that these spark plugs take, but it felt lighter than normal. So I'm going to ultimately take the gas tank off and then check the torque on this right-hand side after we do the air filter. So let's get to doing that. All right. I like to put a little bit of wheel bearing grease to hold the O-rings in there so that they don't want to fall out. Makes it easy to put it on. You get the screw started in the backing plate, put your gasket on. The way I do this, I start the throttle body first. Actually, I don't. Well, I do, but I forgot something. I just thought about it. I forgot to plug the TCA in. That would have been a real big problem when we wanted to start the motorcycle up, at least. Alright. Now we're back at it. I'll hold it up there. Get some of the screws lined up. And then the induction module is able to move around a little bit, so if it needs to, we can scooch it up. Get these screws started. Look back there, make sure nothing crazy happened with your O-rings. Oh there. How's that thing getting all wild? Yep. All right. Tighten these sons of bitches down. Get this thing going. Tightening everything down lightly. Easy peasy. Get that thing down. Excellent. Get those things down. Excellent. And little breather tube deals. You want to go light on these screws. It's easy to pull these threads out. I've talked to many people that have. The torque spec on them, I believe, is like 55 inch-pounds. You don't want to go any more than that. For real. That's right there at 60, and I'm gonna, whoo, that was scary. I felt scared. All right, pop our cover on. Awesome. Awesome sauce. I'm gonna lower the bike down a little bit. Take the seat off, take the gas tank off. Check the torque on these screws. And while the gas tank's off, I'm gonna crank the engine over and build oil pressure. I'll bring it back. All right, we just got the gas tank back on it. It's a good thing I checked. I'm just joking, it didn't really matter because the spark plugs were nice and tight on the other side. But it's peace of mind. And if I would have been on the dyno and things would have been going kind of funnier for whatever reason, I would have thought about those spark plugs and wouldn't have been able to get it out of my mind. So while the gas tank was off, I cranked the bike over just to build oil pressure, and everything was normal. I cranked it for not that long. Like, it'll only let you crank it so long, and then the BCM will just turn off power to the starter. So I did that 4 times, I believe. So I haven't started it up yet. We're just running these spark plugs in. We're going to torque them down and start it up and hear it together. Alright. Just my luck. Pull the whole gas. It's really only 4 bolts. It's not like it's that much work, but I can't tell you how many times I've checked to see if this oil pump was here in the last 2 months. Like, it's just been on my mind, at least weekly for sure. Is it here? Is it here? And then it's just seeing the parts, waiting for it, waiting for this stupid oil pump. I'm just glad we're almost done with it. So let's lower the bike down, turn it around. Crank it up. Oh, these selfie sticks are so ghetto. All right, let's listen to it. All right, awesome. Everything sounds good with it. You know, popped right off. No funny noises or anything. That's the way it should sound. I'm gonna get it down to the dyno, and then we're gonna tune it and see what type of power it makes. But glad to see that it's going. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye.